Hello, hello. This is your favorite gringo CTO in Mexico City. Today, I wanted to talk about a topic I wouldn't say near and dear to my heart, but of intense interest right now, which is React dying? And based on a lot of the stuff that you hear and read at the moment, you might think that there is a giant rush for the exits. So let's figure out what's actually going on. First off, if you're not aware, there's some drama going on with React. Surprise, surprise. Specifically, React server components and their implementation, more precisely in the Next.js app router. So, in summary, it's an example of what is probably a poorly communicated change, along with some necessity of changing how certain open source packages work and everyone changing how their mental model works if they want to take advantage of this new flow that the React team is working on. And in a nutshell, that flow is more and more of your processing will happen on the server. Your components will be transformed into plain HTML and sent down. You have the option of treating certain parts of your componentry as interactive or client components and using those the way that you normally would. Where people get a little bit upset is certain patterns that they were used to around state management or what have you aren't going to work the same if you take advantage of server components. And not to mention that certain parts of the implementation of the app router or Next.js specifically were slow or perhaps incomplete or just suboptimal. So based on that, a lot of people are comparing React to the Angular transition that caused a lot of folks to jump ship and actually led directly to the rise of React. And a lot of people are talking about moving to Svelte or even leaving the front end framework bonanza entirely and going to HTMX or something like that. So I figured rather than just listening to the news and figuring out how many comments are on each side or the other, let's look at the actual effect on the marketplace, which is probably most precisely measured by things like downloads. And I like to be quantitative and evidence-based in general, so let's get into it. Here we have a smorgasbord of different front-end frameworks, starting with Angular, HTMX, which is an interesting project. Of course, it's written in JS, but it's a way of not having to write JS yourself and extending HTML to do some of that basic interactivity. React, Solid.js, which is new, Svelte, and Vue. And so you can see here over the past couple of years, not only do I not see a giant crash, which is what I would be interested to see in React, it's the green line here. If anything, the slow upward trend leading to some space here between React and its competitors seems to be continuing. So you can see at the beginning of this time series, which is looks like Q3 of 2021, React started with about 10 million downloads, which again is about 5x of Next Place, which at that point in time looks like it was Angular. And you can see today it is pretty much doubled to 20 million, which is still about 5x higher than second place, which is Vue, about 4 million. So that's interesting, right? Like the trend has more or less continued. In fact, the most interesting thing to me about this time series is just how small some of these projects are versus what you hear. Like HTMX has been all over Hacker News. Like they do a great job of marketing their project. I guess credit to the team there. But yeah, if you you look at these numbers, I mean, it's a crazy small download rate, bouncing between like 20, 30, 40,000, compared to 20 million and change for React. Even Svelte, which is a great framework, don't get me wrong, and people talk about it a lot. It looks like we're talking like 600,000 versus about 20 million for React. So just a good reminder to, by all means, like listen to the news and stay current and all of that stuff, but always check that stuff against numbers because the numbers here are definitely telling a different story than what you might read on Hacker News. And if we look at call it the backend side, like the meta framework side, so we have Remix, and I think this is the right package to measure for Remix. SvelteKit, Next, and Nuxt, which is like Next for Vue. Actually, there is a pretty pronounced trend over the last couple of years. It's been pretty much straight up for Next.js, and you have pretty much a pack of second place competitors here. Not to say that they're bad frameworks or anything. That's not the point. It's just to see like, do we see a giant exodus from React towards other options, and even on the meta framework side, like most of the consternation has been focused on Next. It seems like, and yeah, like I'm not seeing any evidence here to suggest that that is the case. I mean, if you look at the past year, I mean, you might say that the line is getting a little bit flatter and less up, But that's a lot different than seeing a giant crash and everybody going for something else, you know? So that's the last place we'll look here is the star history for GitHub. And you can see here that, you know, start at whatever this is, 2013, and to present, of course, there's still like a gigantic amount of distance between React, Svelte, and Vue. Even if you align the timelines, so you're comparing, you know, day zero to day zero here, you can see that React is actually growing faster than the other options. So yeah, in summary, like I'm just not seeing a whole lot of evidence to support this idea that React is dying and everybody is jumping ship and we all need to move to something else. Candidly, like I think the lessons here are stuff blowing up and collapsing is more interesting to write about and talk about than graphs that are basically flat or going up, like this one. And it's probably much better for clicks and clickbait to talk about how the sky is falling and the thing that everybody has spent their time learning is obsolete than it is to say that, you know what, it's a technological change and either you'll learn it or you'll choose not to use it and so will everybody else and, you know, life will go on. So yeah, like I think the lesson here is that we as developers think that we're very logical creatures and that, I don't know, marketing doesn't work on us or something like that, when in reality, we're some of the most heavily marketed people in the world. And I think this is an example of that. You might be hearing about other stuff all the time and how it's going to take over, but I'm just not seeing evidence that that's the case. So trust but verify is always a good motto. And hopefully this was helpful for cutting through some of the noise on that front. But in any case, if you enjoyed it, I do this for fun. It's not to make money or be an influencer or any of that stuff. And it's most fun for me on this channel if I have people to interact with and leave comments and argue with me or say that I'm right or whatever. So if you wouldn't mind, leave me a like, leave me a subscribe, leave a comment. All of it's good for the channel. And hopefully you guys are getting value out of this. If you're not, I'd love feedback. And if you are, encouragement is always welcome. But anyway, till I see you guys next time, I hope you're well and let me know what you'd like to hear about next. Take care.